No one's supposed to see that. Okay. Am I on? Okay, good. Hi. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't acting like the friars up at church. So welcome, everybody. I'm really, really happy everyone's here. Thank you for coming tonight and for sharing your vision for the Franciscan Renewal Center. I'm really excited about this. This is very important work. How we experience the campus today was envisioned by the friars, the staff, and the community members 25 years ago. And that includes the new church, right? But now, all of you are part of the vision for the next 25 years, taking us out to 2050. Just imagine that. How exciting is that? You are the vision of the CASA. We are here to celebrate your efforts, share what was gleaned from the visioning sessions, and update you on how we're planning to go forward in the next 25 years. But first, I want to go over the agenda before we do that. So, Board Member Paul Walsh will come up and we'll review the process and how the data was collected and what we categorized. Then Father Page and I will walk through what we did with the sessions and the results of our collective efforts. Finally, Executive Director Charlie Brown will share how we're moving forward by strategically planning for the next 5 years. We also are going to leave time for questions and answers, so make sure you remember all your questions and answers and what you want to ask us. We'll give plenty of time for that, so don't be shy at the end. But before handing it over to Paul, I'd like to share the insights into the graphic that symbolizes the Vision 2050 journey. I'm sure all of you noticed on your name tag there was this new emblem. And you might have even noticed on the invitation there was this nice new emblem, right? So what we have here is this new logo symbolizes our 2050 journey. The dynamic arcs of the circle form a swirl, which represents the CASA's 4 areas of mission focus. We have church, which is purple, so the colors are important. Ministries, which is light blue. Grounds and infrastructure, green, which is a good one. Retreat center, orange. Each path is leading toward a shared, evolving center, our future shaped by collective growth and experiences. And before I turn it over to Paul, I forgot to introduce myself, so I apologize for that. I'm Diane Catlin, and I'm the board chair for the Franciscan Renewal Center, so just in case you didn't know that. But anyways, let's welcome up Paul Walsh. You might remember him.
Yes, I am Paul Walsh. Good evening. Before we talk about what we did together, there have been a lot of questions that have been asked about what was this process all about. And so what I'm going to try and do is explain how this process was designed in a way to reflect what we want to ultimately envision here at the Franciscan Renewal Center. The process was based upon 2 proven methodologies. The actual visioning process was based upon the works of a noted scholar from Stanford, Jim Collins, who wrote the books Built to Last and Good to Great. And Collins's research showed pretty convincingly that organizations that not only endure but prosper over time have a deep-seated grounding and a shared purpose, why the organization exists. It isn't just simply shared by people at the top of an organization, it's shared throughout the organization. The second thing that they showed was that key elements to organizations that persist and excel over time is where there are shared values. Not a dozen values, not 6 values, typically 3 or 4 values. And the great test of whether or not something is truly a value is whether or not that value is evident in every interaction within that organization. It's a tough test. But organizations that effectively have a common sense of purpose, why they exist, and a common sense of the values they're going to employ collectively are those organizations that effectively continue to exist and excel over time. The other thing that Collins's research shows is that those organizations that have a clear shared value, a shared vision, also are those that not just simply built to last, but good to great. And the vision is not intended to be something that is eminently achievable. In fact, the vision is to be something that, my goodness, how could we ever get there? It's supposed to be aspirational. It's something that motivates an organization to do something that allows them to go beyond what they normally think they could do. And that vision has two components: a vivid description, which is us transporting ourselves into some future state, in the case of what we were going through 25 years, in describing what it looks like and what it feels like to be having achieved that vision. It's not a woulda, coulda, shoulda, it's what does it feel like? What does it look like to be there? And the second part is what we call a BAMO, which is a bold, ambitious, monumental objective. By the way, Jim Collins calls it a BHAG, Big Hairy Audacious Goal. We think that was terribly Franciscan, so we went with BAMO, all right? And we thought that was a little bit more fitting for us at the Franciscan Renewal Center. And this is something that's intended to be measurable, not just simply something that I think will sort of get there. No, it's you know when you arrive there. And so the combination of being grounded in purpose and values, in having a statement of vision, both in terms of what it looks and feels like, as well as being concrete in what you're trying to achieve, is from Jim Collins, and that was the fundamental basis of the visioning exercise. But there was a second element, methodology as well. And that recognizes that we are, in fact, a Catholic institution. And so the visioning exercise has us employing a concept called See, Judge, Act. Has its basis in the works of St. Thomas Aquinas. Pope Francis, in fact, utilized that methodology in Laudato Si, which he published in 2015. And the basic concept is that we take the time to look at the world we're in and the world that's evolving, and ask ourselves, based upon our purpose as an organization, how do we face off against what's happening in the world, whether or not there is impoverishment or social injustice, or whatever it might be. And the judge is really a discernment process. Where can we have an effect? Where can we make an impact as an organization based upon our purpose? And lastly is act. Do we have a call to action to effectively make the effective change? And so our process was based upon those two methodologies, which I think are pretty well grounded, not only in the church, but also within our scholarly functions here in the United States. So what do we actually do? Well, we held 17 visioning sessions, 4 to 10 individuals per session. These were 4-hour visioning sessions, a big commitment from everyone, and everyone that went through that, many thanks. It was greatly appreciated. We had a flow of purpose and culture. What we did was that we had a purpose and culture review of the purpose of culture, values, the ministries, the Order of Franciscans Meyer, which was given to us. And the question ends up being, how do we react to that? Does that talk to us? Is this something that we can embrace? Is this something we can see existing in 100 years? We then went through an exercise. Again, these were small group exercises within these sessions, usually split into groups of 4. We went through then an exercise of what should our community focus in direction be for the CASA. And there we employed the See, Judge, Act exercises. And that was really fascinating to watch. I got to, as a facilitator, got to watch it, how people were raising issues not only in the present nor in the future. What will technology impacts be in terms of us as a church, as an example? Will it be a church with walls or without walls? Fascinating a series of discussions. And then we effectively went through the visioning exercise of taking 3 or 5 exciting and vivid snippets describing what groups would want to see and feel occurring at the Casa 25 years from now. We then took that and wrote it into a short article, which we then called the Vivid Description, what we'll see in 25 years. And then we wrote a memo based upon the vivid description in the purpose statement. We went through 17 of these exercises. In every one of them, the data was collected. Where's Vincenzo? This young man did a great job of collecting all the information, synthesizing it so that it could be not only observed, but processed, and you'll be hearing about that very shortly. The information we got was very interesting. I think you're going to find it interesting as well. And frankly, one of the interesting things that, to me personally, to see throughout this whole exercise was the level of passion and commitment that was being expressed by virtually everyone that was going through it. And sometimes you see people that are very passionate, they don't listen very well. There was the level of collaboration in each of these groups was fascinating. So in any case, that's what we did. Thank you for listening.
You took all the papers.
Did I take them? Yeah.
That's okay.
It's a pattern.
Yeah, it is.
Never leave the evidence.
Hi again. Go ahead. You're first on this one on the page.
Well, first of all, I want to reiterate the thanksgiving for all the participation that you gave to us during the summer months. What you represented to us was the spirit of this community, what it means to you, and that we work together in a spirit of work to achieve the gospel message.
So what we did was, this is the graphic and the details behind everything that we collaborated and synthesized. Just going to go over a few of these wonderful numbers. These are all, of all the participants. So the age ranged from 32 to 92. We had an average of 22 years as community member, 90% regularly attended Mass, 72% attended retreats, and 74% volunteered in ministries. That's really important because when you're doing a vision for the next 25 years, you want to make sure you have a great representation of all that is happening on this campus. So we were very excited about all of you that came and participated. We're excited about what we're going to do in the future, and quite frankly, what we're doing in the future, we need your help to continue doing it. So continue doing this and continue helping and being involved. So what did we hear? That's important, right? This is what everyone really came for. You want to know what we heard. So I'm going to read the top 10 items. So, excuse me, increased cultural events and programs that promote diversity, more intergenerational gatherings and programs, always demonstrate the Franciscan values, increased interfaith collaboration, more youth leadership and participation in liturgies, expanded CASA locations and programs around the valley and state, increased dedication to landscaping and gardening, new columbarium construction, increased environmental responsibility, more social events and gatherings for the community, hence tonight.
More.
So where are we going with this? It's like, okay, great, you got all that information. What do you do with it, right? So this is what we're doing. The friars, the staff, and the board of directors, we synthesize what we heard into a renewed purpose, values, and vision to support our mission of the renewing lives through spiritual growth, healing, and transformation in service to others. So Father Page will open up the purpose.
One of the things that was very clear to us to determine is what is the purpose of the Renewal Center? Both the meetings, conference dynamic, and the church dynamic. And we agreed that we believe that our purpose is to demonstrate and show the extravagant, never-ending graciousness and love of God to every person. How is that done for us mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally? And we believe that that really is our very purpose of being able to help people along the pilgrim journey. Okay, that's the purpose. Help people believe they're loved. Help people know that God cares about them in every aspect of our lives. We've all had moments, we know, when we may not believe God loved us. Or where was he? Where is he? That kind of dynamic. Our mission, our purpose is to help people really understand that. So, okay, what are the values that as a Franciscan community, now I think, I want to ask your opinion about something. Father Vincent, would you come up here, please? Doesn't he look wonderful for being 800 years old?
Thank you.
I'll get it at home, but we have a good time here. Okay. So really, I mean, that's our purpose. So how do we get there? Through our Franciscan values. And I do that, not to embarrass Father Vincent, but we've been around 800 years now. So what is it that holds us as valuable? First of all, here at the center, how is it we collaborate with each other? We have learned over a period of time, as any institution will learn, you cannot silo yourself. There has to be a spirit of cooperation and collaboration, and that is of great value to us. How is it then, are we interdependent with each other? How is it that all that happens here on these 25 acres is done interdependently with each other to help us reach the purpose that we say we hold? How is it that we have awareness and self-reflection? That's very important. We do what we do, we evaluate what we do, we reflect on what we've done, what was done well, what can be done even better as we move into the future. How is it, too, that we accompany each other? And all who come here, and many of you know, most of you, I think, would agree with this, people really are truly welcome here. And we do want to accompany them, whether it's an individual, whether it's a family, whether it's somebody here on retreat or a conference. So our Franciscan values include those four things to help us continue to be about sure that we're doing our purpose. Diane's going to tell you what we get from the vision.
Thank you. So first of all, before you're already reading it, and that's fine, and I think it's important that you do, but I want to make sure that you remember, how did we get the vision? Because you're all thinking maybe not, but if you might be thinking, well, what did we do in our session, and what about all those BAMOs, right? So we used the BAMOs from every of the visioning sessions to develop this vision. So hopefully you can all see your BAMO in there in some form or another. So the vision, we are a diverse, intergenerational, spiritual home, welcoming people seeking peace, love, belonging, and healing. We are a Christ-centered, prophetic place, embracing the gospel and Franciscan values. We are continuously measuring and assessing whether the Franciscan Renewal Center is fulfilling its purpose and deepening the understanding of the Franciscan values. So by building on the successes of today and pulling through those embolded threads of the 4 areas of mission focus that we saw in that logo, the rich tapestry of the Franciscan Renewal Center will be a beacon of hope and renewal for future generations. We're quite excited about this. We're not done talking because Father Page is going to come up and he's going to continue to talk about the 4 areas of mission focus. So thank you.
John.
Okay, what are the 4 areas of mission focus that we gleaned from the summer's work? One of them is the church itself. We must remember that we're a Roman Catholic church, and we must remember that we are steeped deeply in the Franciscan values. How is it, as a faith community and a center, do we teach, live, and preach the gospel itself? What is this good news that the world so desperately needs to hear? So how do we do it individually, collectively, collaboratively, interdependently? How is it we are church with each other? Many of you know so well the history of the building of the church that's 7 years old now. Many of you sitting here this evening have memories in this very space itself. So that's a church with walls, if you will. But how is it when you and I leave these sacred walls, how is it we build the church outside of these walls? How is it that what we do here, learn here, preach here, teach here, how do we take it with us outside of the structured building of the church? How do we be church in our daily lives? We're very committed, and we do believe that the vibrant, life-giving liturgies that are celebrated here are very important to us as a faith community. That's the church. That's our focus for the church. The retreat center itself, we believe that we must always demonstrate Franciscan hospitality. Now that may mean different things to different people, but how is it we are welcoming? How is it we're collaborative? How is it we're interdependent? How is it we're aware with self-reflection? How is it we accompany people along the way? We believe that we must have pertinent and prophetic programs. Now, I would remind ourselves that the word prophet in Bible language means the spokesperson for God. This is not tea leaves. It's not a Ouija board. How many of you used to play the Ouija board? Show me. Of course we always dreamed that Judy Williams would let me walk her home. Okay? I mean, that's not the kind of prophecy we're talking about here. What is it the gospel asks us to do in a prophetic sense? A third major area is the entire physical plant here. These 25 acres, every building, every pipe, everything that's here. That includes grounds, which are beautiful. We hear that all the time. And the infrastructure that we have here. So how is it we continue to create a welcoming atmosphere which demonstrates in every way the very values of a Franciscan piece of place and hope and healing? A third area is ministries. How is it you and I go about believing, supporting that faith formation is a lifetime process? It didn't stop if we went to Catholic school in the 8th grade. It didn't stop if we went to Catholic high school. Some of us didn't even go to Catholic schools. So what's our lifelong commitment to our faith formation? That's really very important to us here. How do we strengthen the interdependent and the dynamic relationships between the community and the purpose and the values of our mission? So, our mission: renewing lives through spiritual growth, healing and transformation, and service to others. We're very grateful to you and to all the members of this faith community for what you entrust to us as friars and staff with the gifts of your time, your talent, and your treasure. One of those is not more important than the other. We need them all. So how is it we continue this mission with our values for these 4 focuses here on our campus? While observing the sessions, it became very clear to me that there is a reality of the uniqueness of the Renewal Center, in that we have the Renewal Center with conferences, retreats, individuals, families, groups, etc., and you have a very healthy, loving, vibrant church community. These are both realities here. And how blessed we are that we are in a situation where for 74 years now, this community has created, in some ways, its own loving and healthy, life-giving ministry and mission. The friars have come and gone. You all know that. But the faithful and those who attend here, you stay and you remain. So how is it together we make this happen? This is a very interesting and unique place in that there are many paths here to renewal. Many people just come and walk the grounds. Many people come, the meditation chapel, the St. Clair Chapel. We can go over into the church almost any time of the day, and it's not at all unusual to find somebody in that church praying. So renewal for us comes in a whole bunch of ways here, but we cannot do this without each other, and we cannot do it without a basic agreement on what's the purpose, the values, and the mission of the Renewal Center. Obviously, the CASA is very important to you, and you have helped create what we have here. And my encouragement to each of us as we face the future with hope, how is it you and I want to continue to build something here that we pass on to the next generation? How important that is that we give to ourselves, to the purpose, the mission, the values, to pass this on. If it's been so important to us, how important might it be to the future generation that is to come? We do look forward with hope. We move forward with faith. We are deeply committed to our mission based on our values and our purpose. 70-year history, more than 70 years. We're grounded, yes, in the present, but we must move forward with our eyes fixed on the future. I now want to ask Charlie to come forward. He, of course, is our executive director, and he will help us move into a mode of thinking about, okay, we've got all this now. What's a strategic plan to help us implement it?
Thanks, Paige.
Really well done, Paul, Diane, and Father Page. Really hard to follow. But this is where the rubber meets the road. It's the brass tacks. It's where the work gets done. But I look out into this crowd today and I see so many people I've gotten to know over the last 26 and a half years. And many of you were part of the 2025 vision that started in the year 2000. We had some bold and audacious objectives then, boy. And I think there was plenty of us that had our skeptical doubts if we could achieve it. And we went through it as a board exercise, and we achieved every single one of them. So I want to thank all of you that not only birthed that vision, but the board and the community that carried it through for two and a half decades. That leads me to what I'm super excited about, and that's the future. And the future is very wonderful, and it's going to be even better than we even imagined, because what we've collectively decided to ensure happens in the next 25 years is because of all of you. But yet it requires structure and it requires discipline to get there. It's an actionable approach that we've been doing here at the CASA for 70 plus years. 10 years ago, I wrote a 10-page piece on the history of strategic planning at the Franciscan Renewal Center. I think maybe 5 people read it. But Father Joe wanted me to write it because he loved documentation. And going down that memory road, I learned from the very first year we were here, we were strategic planning. And the Friars have been strategic planning for 800 years. Some folks may find that as a coincidence of opposites. With the Friars you've grown to love and know. But St. Francis had a discipline around the vision. And that's been carried forward now for 8 centuries, leading to us where we are today. So I've been through 5 strategic plans here. Frank's been through more. But we take seriously strategic planning here at the Renewal Center. Ask anybody on our staff that's been a part of that exercise, how we follow up and ensure that action items get done and are reported back to the board of directors and to the Friars. So we take great pride in how we link strategic planning as not just a pie-in-the-sky ideal, but really where the rubber meets the road each and every day, and how we decide how we're going to spend the generous donations you all provide us, as well as the ways that we earn our revenues. What we do is we break down these long-term visions and values into workable objectives. And these objectives, probably 3 to 5, will carry us for 5 years. They will be broken down further by key initiatives that we work together to measure what it is we aspire to be. Where we came to deciding points, where we are in the process of coming to deciding points on objectives, are really built around what we call impediments. Jim Collins was really clear about how critical impediments are, not only in corporate and nonprofit life, but in our own lives. What are the things that get in the way of the things that we want to do? And we spent a lot of time since this January as a staff of 4 committees, met several times to really analyze what are the obstacles and what are the impediments that would prevent us from this amazing vision. We can go into detail about what some of them are, but some of you may be familiar with resources and finances, bishops and friars, aging, staff. There's just so many. We came up with 90. 90 ways we may not be able to accomplish this magnificent vision. I think that's a powerful statement. And that's why the objectives are so critical, because the objectives are developed to blow through those impediments and will not prevent us from accomplishing our vision. I think what's really important about the discipline around having a 5-year strategic plan is the oversight this community is blessed with by our board. And we have board members here tonight that I'm really grateful. Please stand. Please stand up if you're a board member. We need you to be recognized. I say that, I know, with humility, because this community needs to know the hours that were invested over many weekends when they could have been home with their families, and we worked on this stuff that you gave us hard. And we had good debates. And we had times where we didn't agree. That's normal, and it should be that way. But we came to consensus with what we developed here that came from all of you. So these 4 areas of mission focus are just so critical to driving us forward and having a focus. Now we are establishing, over the next 2 to 3 months, the ways and means of everything you created for us to take to our CASA board in May. We'll have 2 board meetings before May where the staff will be sharing back and forth with the board how they're developing these objectives and how they're creating these key initiatives. So it's a dialogical process. It's not easy with busy schedules and people working day to day, but we're committed to having the dialogical process between our board and the staff and some volunteers about where we land in May so that we have something worthwhile to provide. Another piece that Diane, our board chair, and Paul, and the rest of the board are really clear of is let's make sure we communicate with our community what it is we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and how we're paying for it every single year. It's nice to have an annual report that we pass out, and I get up and talk about it for 3 minutes. We are committed to spending much more time with all of you every single year on how we're fulfilling our promise to be dedicated to this strategic plan. And in my history, that's never happened. And it is now. So we will be having an all community-wide, just like this, with the entire CASA community in April. And we're expecting maybe 200 people. We hope more. I guess in closing, what's most important to me, and I think Father Joe probably really got this launched, and we have some former board members here that will remember that, is we got to build our future together. With fewer friars, the laity needs to lead. And that's what we've all been committed to. And it's sad, and we're focused on vocations, and we're seeing a lot of ways people are staying involved in the religious order. But at the end of the day, this community will be tasked with driving this forward. So your involvement, no matter how big or small, is important. Make sure you share that with other community members. Every single, tonight I introduced, maybe 12 people that didn't know each other that have been coming to the CASA 30 to 40 years. That's why you saw social events up there a big deal. We've been going to Mass with the same people for years, and yet we don't know them. And then we find out we grew up about 10 miles away from each other. It happens all the time. So your involvement is critical. How can you help us? Well, naturally, it would be to pray. We have to invoke the Holy Spirit in everything we're doing. And someone said there was something special about those 17 meetings. And it was great that Paul led them and Diane was there to lead them, and we had staff helping on. The Holy Spirit was involved in those processes. The Holy Spirit was active. Even the day we did the hybrid Zoom, right? And someone showed up, I'm here for the session, and we switched it quickly from Zoom to hybrid, just like that. Thank you, Vincenzo. But that was the spirit we had. So we asked people to volunteer. How can you help? You can volunteer. Many of you already do volunteer, but we see a lot of folks showing up for the first time or the first couple of times here at the CASA, and they want to know how to get engaged. And I'll tell you what, there's no quicker way to get engaged. You come on a tour, you go to Mass, before you know it, you're volunteering and you're an active participant in our mission. And I have people here tonight, I'm looking at them right now, that's happened to them just this year. And they can't think of any better place they'd rather be than the Renewal Center. You know, we have a great volunteer talent director in Jennifer. She had an orientation for 12 new volunteers last week, all brand new, looking for a way to serve others. So the Spirit is alive, and there are ways to engage people by volunteering. Paige does this quite a bit, but invite friends and family to Mass. I know it's kind of scary to do it, but you just never know when that miracle is going to happen. Keep inviting them to Mass. Invite them to a tour. We have a tour next Thursday at 11. We had 22 people on a tour here last week. And we had 18 on a tour 3 weeks before that. So we have a lot of people want to know more about what's going on here. And I think all of you are very excited about the CASA. Invite somebody to a tour. I'll tell you what, they're going to get a really great experience. And then finally, take a retreat. When was the last time you were on a retreat? And you have a retreat center in your backyard. I'll tell you what, even just coming on a private retreat and just spend the night with us. Let us feed you. Take a shower, take a bath, relax, walk the grounds. It is so affordable to take a retreat at the CASA. And the people I meet that are from our community that have been here 10, 20, 30 years, never even thought about going on a retreat. When they are encouraged to go on a retreat, you know what they say? Thank you. Thank you. Take a retreat. Encourage someone to go on a retreat. It's life-changing. So in conclusion, our shared work is truly an expression of God, God's love. We are bringing comfort to those in need today, and we are building, as Paige said, a foundation for our future generations. We thank you for your faith. We thank you for your dedication. And just as important, your generosity. We look forward to continuing this pilgrim journey together as pilgrims of the Franciscan Renewal Center. At this point, it's kind of the scary point, we have Q&A. So I'm going to ask Diane and Paige to come back up here so we can answer some of your great questions, things we didn't cover. We're also going to pass out a beautiful brochure created by our communications and marketing team and Frank Basilice here tonight. It kind of covers what we talked about tonight, but it gives you a document to walk away with that validates all the good work that you did. So I know we have some planted people to ask questions. Yeah, here's a planted person.
I'm not a planted person. I'm Jack Rubino.
Hi, Jack. Good to see you.
I've come to church here for about 5 years, and I've gotten sorry despite all of the enthusiasm tonight. I must say I'm disappointed.
Okay.
I have not heard any mention tonight about the poor, about the imprisoned, about the needy, about the migrants. You know, there's a pretty good Franciscan out there who has a construct that he calls the cosmic egg.
Yeah,
Richard Rohr,
Richard
you
Rohr.
might know, talked about the cosmic egg in his meditations that he's had over the last couple of weeks. Briefly, there's 4 levels. One of them is my story, which is a very selfish, egotistic story. The second level is our story, which is a story that has to do with the community, but is also very, very selfish. The third level is their story. It's all those people out there beyond our community. And of course, his topic thing is the story. So what I'm here tonight is our story. A very selfish review of our story. I heard a little bit about, Paul talked a little bit about ACT. He referred to it as ACT. In terms of the, Diane talked about the 10 preferences, and there was something about getting out into the Phoenix community.
All right.
I was chopping vegetables at the Andre House today. There were 6 of us from CASA there. When I go to the Migrant Welcome Center, that's closed now, but there were about 8 of us there. When I go to Habitat for Humanity, there are about 15 people from CASA that shows up. I think this whole plan is very selfish to the extent that it does not include as a necessity that we get out into Phoenix and do something as an institution, not as individuals saying, I volunteer for this, I volunteer for that. We need to set up a storefront downtown to do dental work, to do psychiatric work, to do whatever. We need to get off of this campus. So.
Thank you. Who wants to respond to that? No, me too. You got-
Response. That's my input.
Okay.
Well, I think it warrants a response.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, the CASA's been famous, as you know, for 70 years for starting Andre House, for starting a lot of the main places downtown that now can do it on their own. And I think that's a proud thing that we're all really excited about, is what we've been able to initiate around Maricopa County. And we have two people here tonight that are full-time in Faith in Action doing social causes, social mission. Please stand up. I know Jack knows you, but I got Laura and I got Victor here. Jack, I don't bring them up to brag or to try to diss on them, but we have two full-time people doing God's work and gospel mission, which is more than a lot of dioceses have. And they've collectively got 250 volunteers, but guess what? We can do more, and we should do more. And we took seriously your comments in the visioning process, didn't we? Mm-hmm. We talked about what you shared. We listened to what you had to say, and we're going to act on it. It may not be exactly the way you want it or the way it should be, but it's going to be our way of doing it. And so we're going to invite you back to talk to us more about that. So your voice was heard. Thank you, Jack.
Dennis.
We talked about has been intangible. What are the 3 or 4 or 5 tangible things that we want to do in the next 5 years? And how are we going to pay for it? The guy having a fancy place for 100%.
That's a really good question, Dennis. And
Fair.
I'll start, and then Charlie or Father
Sure.
Page can finish on that. That's part of the process of what Charlie and his staff and team are doing to get back to the board. So we created the 25-year vision that is wide and broad, because in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, life changes. So it's really hard to create a tangible thing for 25 years in the future. But that's why we have to break it down into 5-year increments, basically, to reach and to get to this 25-year goal. So part of the strategic planning, is which he's working on, will get us to exactly what you're saying, the tangible things on that path going forward every 5 years to make sure we're on that path. So that's not done yet. That's what he's working on. Did you want to add to
No,
that?
I think that was great. And I think, Dennis, you've been participating with us 10, 12 years. We've spent almost $30 million on this campus. But we had to in order to get it set for the next 50 years. Now that does sound self-serving and somewhat selfish, but you got to start charity at home. You got to build the foundation for all those that are yet to come. And believe me, there's new people coming every day that we're going to need to help teach them our Franciscan values, our Catholic social teaching, all of the things that Faith in Action are doing to put food on the table for people and to help the homeless, to help those that are on the fringes and on the margins. So those aren't just fancy words. They're actually things that we're practicing and doing. And so I think we're going to take a little rest from building for a while. I hope so. And start working more on these programs and projects like Jack's talking about with some of that funding. And I think you'll find that in the strategic plan to be true. Hi.
Charlie, you mentioned that you're going to have an event in April
Yeah.
for the community, but you're not presenting to the board until May.
Right. That's a good question.
So how does that?
It's going to be,
Board says,
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, forget this whole thing. We'll have to have another party to figure it out. But no, the community thing is going to be a watered down version of what we did tonight, because we're not ready to present specifics yet. But it's important. We wanted to make sure we presented it to those that created this vision first. And then we want to make sure that the community knows what we've been working on for the last year. So yeah, it is important. It's important the community knows about it. And quite frankly, we're not stopping here. Like Charlie said earlier, we're going to be continuing. Like, once we have the strategic plan, we could show the path where we're at towards this vision, so everyone will know. It doesn't stop here. This isn't the last gathering we're going to have. It's not we're one and done. So you guys will be hearing from us a lot. Hopefully you'll keep coming back to hear more. But if not, the community will hear. We'll put it in the bulletin and communicate as much as we can.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Diane.
Just have a question about sort of the 5-year strategic plan. So first of all, I'm glad Father Page came in his best shade of brown today. So thank you, Father Page.
You're welcome.
But really, my general question is, how can you ensure that, whether it's a lay person that succeeds Charlie as executive director,
or a friar that's deceased by the parish director stays accountable to the 5-year strategic plan.
That's a good question.
You know, I've heard stories of pastors and rectors of other parishes that they come on board and they just rip up the entire strategic plan. It's like, no, we're going to do things my terms. So how do you sort of prevent that clericalism, both lay and religious side clericalism in the gospel?
So me or you?
I think all three of us could answer
Yeah.
that. We can answer that one.
So, yeah, I mean, from a board perspective, part of the board is to make sure we follow what's put into place, right? So we have terms and we stagger those terms. So we're not going to start like today, we have one board and then in 5 years we're going to have a completely new board. The good news is that we are able to have term limits that ensures that we have the same board members on for a while. That's point number one. Secondly, as part of a board, you set rules into place, right? You have the bylaws. You can't just go ahead and change those nilly-willy. So that's how important this vision is, that it's not going to change nilly-willy. Now, can something happen when, like, the new province comes down? Yeah, but this is still something that is broad enough that will have a path that we can, I think we can handle no matter what the impediments we come down and we're given. And then you guys can please comment.
Thanks, Diane. That was good.
I think that's on. I think to respond to part of your question, leadership will change here as it has over the years. I think a very important dynamic will be that executive director position, rector position. How is it, though the goals and the mission and the values will be communicated to anyone, layperson or friar, who may think they want to come here? I think a difference, partly, Victor, in response to, and this is a hope I have, that friars are generally more open to collaboration, interdependence, awareness and self-reflection, and accompaniment than other clergy might be. And I don't say there was any despairing remark about my brother priest or brother religious whatever. So I think part of it, and I think we're learning this, how can we match interest and skill sets with what the mission and the purpose may be? And Charlie and I talk about this a lot. We have to depend on each other. I don't know how to do everything Charlie knows how to do here. Some of it I don't want to know how to do. In respect, Charlie doesn't always want to come over and say Mass and take care of some of the spiritual things, the people that call us, come in, want to talk to Father Vincent or me. So it's really a very collaborative, cooperative effort. And I think it's going to take some leadership from the board.
Yeah.
It's going to take some leadership from the province of Our Lady of Guadalupe as this place moves forward.
I think when Father Joe left, he challenged Diane, who was just coming on as the board chair, to develop a 25-year plan. And I think he was wise. He was being prophetic, because building a 25-year plan, the greater province is already aware of this. It's a lot harder to change a 25-year plan than a one-year business model, right? Those of you that are business people. So we decided to commit and lead the friars and the laity to a 25-year plan. So exactly what you suggested can't happen. Executive director reports to the board. They decide my future or not for any future executive director. So I think we're in good place with the way that the bylaws have set the government up here to ensure that a 25-year plan stays on course. Final thing I'll say is, I've told many of you, this is a community-driven organization. This community drives this organization through over 500 volunteers. We had 800 before COVID. We're climbing right back to where we were after COVID. And we heard you loud and clear at these these sessions, that the community leads.
You know, my measurement of this place is the impact that it has on people, not the things that we ended up with. I love the renovations and the money that was spent on things that have buildings standing up. But the money that came, say, for example, of building that church, were pennies, dollars, quarters from people who were committed to making this a haven, a place where people were welcome. I was looking up something for an article on, and Yelp, it had Franciscan Renewal Center as a standalone place. And for years, go look at the comments about this. People were saying, I went to that church, I don't know what they were making all these gestures in church about, but they all talked about feeling welcomed. And Catholics Can't Come Home, when we initiated that program, we had people who were heartbroken, who raised their kids, sent them to Catholic schools, but didn't go to church, or didn't go to communion because they were divorced. And we sent them to our friars and to our healing and to our welcoming sessions. And these people became board members. They became people who squeezed pennies out of their pocket to build this church. We have many big contributors, but the effect of our success is the people who are welcomed, the people who are forgiven, the people who are abused in other communities or by other thoughts of religion and are just welcomed here, broken and not following rules and maybe not living up to what they were told to do, but are just welcomed and loved. And that's the success of any program we're going to do here. Otherwise, it's not going to be a CASA program. It's going to be a program you could go buy a book about.
We do have a question here. Thank you for being patient.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you for that.
I wasn't at one of the district sessions, but I think going to church every Sunday and just looking around, and I'm sure this is one of the objectives, but I fear for the age of our church, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you know, we're all involved, we're volunteers, we do all this, but where's the 40, 50, you know, the 30-year-old, and what's the incentive the church is going to do to try to get that group to be more involved so they can carry on?
Yeah, that was a big thing. That's why we're talking intergenerational. And I think that's why we have people like Vincenzo, who is, and Fred, who's creating, I should probably let Charlie answer this probably, that is helping to create more programs. I don't know if you've seen, there's been more and more young adults driving things here just recently on the campus, which is heartwarming. All the children that are being baptized, how many baptized we have lately coming. It's going to take time. And quite frankly, this is a problem throughout not just our church, it's throughout all of the churches, regardless of what your faith is. They all have that problem. And so that is a problem that we're working on. We're very well aware of that. And it's not easy to do overnight, but we feel like we're chipping away at it. And I'll let Charlie or Father Page answer.
No, and I think that's a great point because you're not the only one that tells us that. And people have been saying that at the CASA for about 50 years. They really have. And I think it has merit. But just the average age of the people that we're hiring in senior level and middle level managers has dropped 10 years on the average because we're seeking young leaders. We have Brooklyn in the back. She's in our marketing. She's in her 20s. We got a lot of folks in their 20s. Vincenzo's in the 20s. And yeah, so we believe that we also have to hire younger in order for us to encourage that to happen with the others around them.
Try to put one thing back in our 2000 to 2025 vision. Back in 2000, one of the things we recognized is we really just were
an adult community. And once young adults had families, they would leave because we didn't even have any sacramental life for children. So one of the things back in 2000 the community wanted was family catechesis. And that's really, really grown in our community. And I think, you know, we kind of forget because it's so much a part. If you go to 915 Mass, you'll see there's lots of families here, which wasn't here in 2000.
Very good point, Shelby.
Thank you, Shelby.
I forgot about that.
Beth Kahneman's in the back.
Beth Kahneman and then George.
I think there's a new group that started for the
I think there's a new group that started from the 30s up, wasn't there? And has that been advertised enough?
Yeah, actually it's 40s up, and there's one guy and 29 women. But they are rocking and rolling, and they got people coming to their meetings. They're going to start having 2 meetings a month because so many people are coming to that, Beth.
Oh, okay, good. No, I wanted to mention that. As
Yeah, it's another new ministry. Yeah, that's truly. George, at front here.
Yeah,
Yeah, let him bring the mic to you.
I don't know what his name was.
Thanks, Anthony.
Brought up the issue of why don't we have a storefront in Phoenix?
Ms. Jack.
I don't need that, okay. I do need that, okay.
Yeah, they need to hear you.
Fly me to, no. I was very uncomfortable because it was criticism, and I was raised in a household criticism wasn't welcomed, and I was raised in a church and criticism wasn't welcomed. But I'm glad he opened the door to it. But in answer to him, I can see within this plan where that action of opening a storefront in Phoenix, where I could see where that action could come from, where the discussion could lead to. However, what I don't see is where a discussion could come from, especially in a setting where the name of the clergy here are brothers. I don't see a discussion where people like my wife and a lot of women that I grew up with in the church who no longer frequent the church because there is not a role for them equivalent to a priest. There is no openness towards women serving in that capacity. Like, you know, you can be a Gentile or Jew, but you got to be a man to do this stuff. Mm-hmm. So, as a criticism of the plan, I would say, wherein can that discussion take place and bear fruit? And I know that Pope John XXIII is a saint, but I don't think he was right on this issue, and I'm sorry that he put such a kibosh on it in terms of discussion.
Okay.
That's a fun page.
Anybody?
I think your point has its proper place. I would gently say this, that we belong to the Roman Catholic Church. And at this point, and I'm not taking sides one way or the other, it's not a topic that is open for discussion. I don't think as a renewal center we can do anything about any woman having a role as far as the priesthood goes.
One of the chances people say that these folks left the church. I think the church left them. You know, this is not to criticize any individual, but if we want to be open and we want to say what's on our heart, that is it. And you know, I'm here because I feel that CASA offers me more than any place else that I know. But that's not a reason to ask not for more or
Good.
for all.
Thank you.
To say that, you know, this is not open for discussion.
I might add, it's not open for discussion today. Is that a true statement? It's not open for discussion today, but we don't, again, 25 years is a long time. Yeah.
What I was saying is,
Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, obviously. So I would argue, and I'm just from the lay side, so he can probably correct me, and please do if I'm wrong. Again, that's not a problem just here. It's a problem worldwide. So do you think that, I would bet that they all know this. I would bet that everybody understands what's happening. And we talk about it as the friars all the time, being we need more lay people here. Now, as much role as we can do it up until our rules say that we can do it. But we're not opposed to having more lay people, regardless of women or men. It doesn't all have to be a friar, which I think that's a big step in the Franciscan Renewal Center. Years ago, we've always had lay people too, but that's one of the things that's so unique about us. But I think in the whole Catholic institution, I really believe that we're not the only ones saying this. I think a lot of people are saying your comment. So I don't think it's going unheard. I almost think it's like turning the Titanic. That's gonna be a tough one to turn. But it's not saying it's not going to do it, but we don't know today what that's going to be.
The image of the turning the Titanic is good in terms of giving it an idea of how, but why, I'm sorry, I'm starting to get into an argument mode. I don't want to.
No, that's okay, but I hear what you're saying.
We hear you.
Yeah, we hear you.
I'm saying, I'm here, and I'm giving you my honest concern.
Thank you, George.
Appreciate it.
Yes, Michelle.
Hey, everyone, my name is Michelle. I'm Victor's wife, so of course my question is going to be Faith and Action Ministries. So I see in the 4 areas of mission focus, one of them is strengthening the interdependent dynamic relationship between community and mission-driven needs. What is your definition of community? How far out does that reach? And are we going to be leveraging FIA to meet those goals?
Yeah. That's a good question, and I know we've already started talking about that in our committee meetings, and Victor's been a part of those conversations. So there's no intention to cut back anything in FIA, it's only to expand more because of Fred's leadership. So Fred Mercadante is the leader of Faith Formation, and Faith in Action is a major component of lifelong and ongoing formation. And we seriously believe that reaching out and helping others to serve the greater community and beyond is essential. A lot of you may not know this, but just last year, we've really upped our game with immersion programs, where folks from the Casa community are going to Mexico, or they're going to the Appalachia, and they're working on building homes and fixing homes in the poorest.
Franciscan Ministries too.
Yes, and so we have 12 or 13 immersion programs planned for this year, just to get us church beyond the walls, church outside of neighborhoods, not even in our state. And so people ask, well, why would you go to Appalachia when you got poor right here? Well, the building codes are a lot easier in Appalachia. So you can fix up grandma's house a lot cheaper and without a lot of red tape. But yeah, good question. That prophetic voice to say you got to keep pushing, you got to keep going, is what the CASA's always been all about, and will continue to be, Michelle.
And one other question, sorry. Last year when I went to the, 2 years ago when we had the big celebration, right?
70th, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I met a lot of people that, they went to church and they didn't know about FIA. Or they didn't know about all the other wonderful programs that we have here. And I met for the first time, I'm like, hi, I'm Victor's wife. And they're like, who's Victor? And I was wondering if...
I just got here, so...
You were here a week.
Yeah.
It's okay, Michelle, you're going good.
No, you're good. So I was wondering if, FIA is something that's going to be more openly talked about during Mass or during, retreat programs or anything else like that, to really reach out to those folks who just go to church on Sunday and are like, what is this?
Well, those are some of the key initiatives that the board and the staff will be working on. Key initiatives are measurable metrics about making progress or not, and they really reveal what the objective is all about. And there's nobody in this room or on the board or on the Friar staff that wants to see anything but more happen with Faith in Action. And that's the beauty of having a strategic plan, because it locks it in and it funds it. And your husband's a major component of that on the committee. So his voice is heard, and his 150 volunteers that he works with is being heard. Same with Laura. Laura's the same way. We have a beautiful process here at the CASA where those voices are heard and they're valued, and we do something about it. That all got recorded, Michelle, on the record, so it's there for life now.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say I appreciate all that you've done with this, and this is the year of hope, and I hope that we can all help and support each other to be our best versions. And as we go out into the community, and I think we do a lot of that. And I really appreciate everything and all the opportunities I personally have been given to do that, and felt confident with it. And our Faith in Action program is, it's beautiful. I know that there's way more that's going to happen. So thank you for everything.
Deanna,
thank you.
That's nice.
I think this is more of a question for where all the information that has been gleaned from these vision groups. So our vision group also talked about outreach that the gentleman discussed too. And I know you collected this information. I know you have it. I know we can't present everything, but where are you collecting it, and how do you review it? Those things that didn't make the top 10 or the top 15, which was probably the outreach.
That's a great question, my husband, Chuck.
It's called Stump the Wife.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
It's a new game show.
Yeah. Actually, that's a really good question. I planted that. No, I did not. But even though we presented the top 10, we looked at everything. The stuff that Vincenzo put through, we look at everything, and we tried to incorporate it all in there. And that's why the vision almost, again, seems so broad, because we could capture everything. I mean, I could probably argue that every one of those things I could find somewhere in this vision, if it's in one of the 4 mission focus areas, or in the actual vision statement at the top. But I think you all will see, because you have to be more strategic, right, and more long-term thinking about it. So to your question, Chuck, is that we are looking at all that. That document is not just here and we threw it away. It's something that we look at every time. And we're making sure that the staff and then the board is constantly following that and making sure that everyone's voice is heard. And will we make some changes along the way? Absolutely. We won't change the vision statement, but the specifics on when those specific things get done or how they get done, that's what we're going to be navigating throughout the next 25 years in the 5-year increments. So we are committed as a board and as a staff to make sure that those documents aren't lost and that we hear everything. Did that answer your question? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I know outreach is a major objective that we're already working on as the staff and the board.
Can you just say once again, maybe I missed it, what the timeline is for the strategic plan and the key initiatives? When will we know what those are?
So we got started in January when the board turned over what the vision was, as well as the 4 areas of focus, so that we could, as a staff, begin creating objectives. And we've met 2 or 3 times in 4 different groups to begin to prepare the impediments that led to the objectives that will lead to the key initiatives. So our strategic planning document will be those 3 critical areas that we hope will be provided to the board at the May 18th meeting. We will have had several meetings before then with the board and the staff articulating our progress. So that strategic plan, if it's approved by the board and the Franciscan Ministry trustees, will be effective 9/1 of 2026. Our fiscal year runs September to August here. It always has. So this strategic plan is to prepare for the future budgets and how we fund the next 4 budgets that we're going to have within the scope of that plan.
Yes.
Hi, Rosemary.
Sure, you raised your hand.
As a totally non-tech person, as the grandchildren will assure you, I probably don't even have the right vocabulary for asking this question. But I don't know how many of you are familiar with something called Nextdoor.
Yes.
Okay, well, at least some. And it's some sort of we're online, you can talk to other people that you don't even know. It has a lot of foolishness, and some things get censored. It's not a perfect plan, but every now and then I actually open it up and look at it, and sometimes I'm amazed at the generosity that gushes out when people get on and say, I need help with X. And it can be financial, it can be emotional, all kinds of things. What it strikes me about that is the technology allows us to find out about other people's needs in ways that light up, give the Holy Spirit an opportunity for us to know, there's something I personally could do about this. And sometimes people just send back little hearts or little folded hands to say they're praying. Other times people offer very valuable resources. I mean, I've seen women who are coming out of abusive situations who needed help and got all kinds of... Are you looking at ways that we could have something similar that would allow us to communicate without always having to go to the director of a different department? With an idea or a need or something where we can just put it out there and say, I'm interested in this, or can we help with this? Those kinds of things.
So you're saying better technology here
Well,
at the CASA?
I think this could be accomplished with a pretty big bang for the buck, and even for the monitoring, although it will require some thoughtful monitoring. I recognize there's an issue there. To now allow the community to nurture each other directly and to inspire each other directly, as well as to ask for help.
Yeah, one of the things that we do talk about is the technology. I mean, obviously, we can't be behind in the times, right? We can't be sitting here handwriting things anymore when you have your smartphones. So that's definitely something, as a board, we're looking at on how we can capture and be on the forefront of technology rather than on the back front of technology. And that is, I mean, we did hear that in the sessions. I remember that session that we talked about, several of them said that. And it is something that I think we as the Franciscan Renewal Center needs to be, kind of come a little bit higher on that. How we do that, that's not decided yet, but we're definitely looking at that, and we do know we have to do more there.
I think what she's talking about is like an internal social.
Sure, all of that we're looking at. So yeah, thank you for clarifying. But we are looking at all of that. And in fact, we're doing a tech audit right now, and we're trying to see what we can do in the future. So you wanted to take? Yeah, I think we've kind of run out of time. Oh, did you have a?
No, Vincenzo had another commitment.
Oh, okay.
Now the microphone.
I thought you had a question. Yeah, I thought you had a question. But I know that, first of all, I wanted to thank everybody for coming here. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for all your comments, questions. They're very well heard. Father Page wanted to make a comment also.
Yeah, I just have one closing announcement, so to speak. We've used our time well this evening, but we do have, and we just planned it this morning, if you have the energy and the interest and the time to stay probably for 30 or 45 minutes, we're going to have a prayer service in the church to pray for Pope Francis.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
I appreciate it. Oh, yes, I knew that was you. I knew that was you.